Making a podcast requires time and careful planning. And whether your show is daily or weekly or monthly, you're going to need to take some time to plan out and consider what you do. Today, I'm going to walk you through exactly the process that I use to produce a daily show. It's daily during the month of November as part of National Podcast Post Month. And I'm going to show you the exact tools that I use, the process that I use. Basically, you're going to get the chance to look over my shoulder to see exactly how I do this, the different tools that I use, all of that stuff. My hope here is that you'll pick up something that you can use to help make your podcast workflow work a little bit better, to streamline some stuff, or just to make your show better. So just a little bit of housekeeping, I guess, before we get started. My voice is a little bit weak today, so I might cough a little bit. I'm not going to do any cleanup in the video. I'll definitely be doing some cleanup for the podcast, but I won't be doing any cleanup for the video. So if that's there, I apologize for that. Also, I have my notes on a different screen, so I'm going to probably be looking away from the screen from time to time to make sure that I don't miss anything. Just kind of want to make sure that everything works really well. And then as I go through this, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing, the tools that I'm using. I'm going to talk about the different, excuse me, told you about the cough, didn't I? I'm going to talk about the different elements that I put together, the way that I mark sections for editing when I'm recording multiple elements at the same time. I'm going to show you how I remove some of the potential distractions in the recording for my solo show. Then I'm also going to show you exactly how I mix master the file, and I add the file identification information, and I also upload to Libsyn for media hosting and to a backup server or a backup drive, all in one simple step. All of this is using Hindenburg Journalist Pro and iZotope RX7 and a couple of other tools. We'll mention that some of the stuff that I'm doing with Hindenburg are only Pro features. So if you're using Hindenburg Journalist, not Journalist Pro, then some of this stuff won't work for you just because those are Pro features. But I do want to show you what I do, because whether you're producing a daily show or a weekly show or something like that, something else rather, this video, I hope, will provide you with something of value so that you can do something better. So, excuse me again. Just as a point of conversation, I have already prepared some stuff. I have some notes for my podcast episode off on the other screen. When I get to recording that, I'll definitely be referring to those. And then I'm also going to walk you through some of the tools. Some of the stuff I can't show you because I can only capture one screen, and I've got some stuff on that other screen. So apologies on that. As far as the actual outline of this episode, I've already got that part done. And I've already got up on my screen the two main tools that I'm going to use for recording. One is Hindenburg Journalist Pro, and if you can see right here, it's already picking up my microphone. I have not routed the audio to the recording, so my hope is that you're not hearing me twice, because that will absolutely ruin this. And then I'm also using, excuse me, using Farrago for some sound effects. I'll play one of those for you right now. So that I'm using that for some sound effects that are used for my show. When I'm recording the show, I'm going to keep my active screen on Farrago so that I can use some keyboard keys. I've got 1 and 2 for these 2 beeps. Because of that, ordinarily I would put markers in my file if I need to mess up, or if I've messed up and I need to go fix something, but I'll be putting in audio markers instead. So I'll just be using the computer beep for that. So that's what's going on right there. If at any point you have questions about this and you want more information, visit toptieraudio.com. You can contact me there. I'd be glad to answer any questions that I can about that. And with that, we're going to get right into this recording. Hope that you're having a great time. So I'm going to hit record. Make sure that everything's working well. And then I'm just going to play a sound marker to let me know about where I'm going to come in. And then I'll get into the podcast episode that I'm recording. Do you want your podcast to stand out? Wow, I messed that up. So this is how I'm going to place the marker. Do you want your podcast episode to stand out? I bet that you do. In fact, pretty much all of us do. But even more important and more fundamental to standing out is the answer to a simple question: what problem are you solving? What's happening, podcasters? This is 1000 Podcasters, and I'm Brian Ensminger. I'm a podcaster and a podcast editor, and I want to see you succeed with your podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about solving problems, specifically the problems that our podcasts solved. And be warned, I'm going to have an action step for you at the end of this episode. So if you're perfectly happy with the way that things are, and you don't want to change anything, you want everything to stay the same, you may want to skip this for right now. I'll tell you this because it's relevant. I'm recording this. Wow, I'm going to mark that. I tell you this because it's relevant to this episode. Wow. I'm telling you this because it's relevant. I'm recording this episode as part of the 30-day solo host challenge dropped by David Hooper at bigpodcast.com. That's also part of National Podcast Post Month. And while I'm recording this, I'm also creating a video that will show you exactly how I'm doing it, and I'll get to why I'm doing that when we get to the end of this episode. If you're interested, though, you can check that out in the episode notes after November 8th, 2019, and you can catch the video there. Why did I tell you that? Again, because today's challenge is from David Hooper, and it's, what problem does your podcast solve? And that's a pretty fundamental question. As fundamental as the question about who you serve and the purpose behind your show is the question, what problem do you solve? Because a show with purpose that doesn't solve a problem may not really matter, or a show for specific people that doesn't solve a problem for them may not matter. Now, as you're thinking about a problem, you might be wondering, well, what kind of problem? After all, my show doesn't solve world hunger, does it? Well, there are different kinds of problems that we face in our lives, and it could be anything from feeling inadequate or incapable to being lonely or being depressed, maybe dealing with a work situation that's a little bit challenging, maybe not knowing what to do next or how to do things. Maybe it's just about boredom. But let's make it personal. I want to talk about your show. What problem does your podcast solve for you as well as for the listener? Not just what it solves for you, but for the listener. And let's make it even more personal. As I think about this podcast, what problem do I think that this podcast solves for you? I shared yesterday that I started this as part of a challenge. There was a catalyst to get me going on this show. That's at toptieraudio.com/57, the reason that I started this. And it was to develop my voice and to build an audience. But as I shared in that episode, that wasn't enough. It wasn't enough for me to simply start a show that was about developing a voice and an audience, because I wanted to make sure that whatever I did, it was serving you as my listeners. And what I wanted to be able to do was provide a short form show, something in the range of about 5 to 10 minutes, something that I could, if I wanted to, produce daily without killing the rest of my life. And I wanted to be able to help you with things around mindset, software, equipment, resources, tips to help make your podcast better, or to help get you going or help keep you going, that kind of stuff. And so because of that, I want to make sure that I'm providing bite-sized inspiration, insight, and information that you can take with you on the go. I don't do long-form, in-depth interviews on this show. I don't often focus on specific tools or software unless it's relevant to solving a problem that you have or that I think that you might have. And I try to, if necessary, break up large topics into multiple episodes, because I'm not doing those really long things. I don't do long, how did I get started interviews that take you from childhood to where you all are right now and all those steps along the way. I want to solve specific problems. So back to that question, what does my podcast solve? In my mind, as a podcast producer, I know that my life is very full and I don't have a lot of time available to learn new things other than what's involved in my commute and if I can listen at work and some places like that. But I don't want to take time away from family if I don't need to. And I don't want to take time away from work or volunteer commitments or things like that. And as a podcaster and a podcast editor, I need to make the very most of my time. And so I kind of made my show for a version of me, somebody who needs to be able to get answers and inspiration and information and instruction quickly that I can either keep or take with me on the go, something that wouldn't take away from all of that kind of stuff. And that's what I wanted to provide for you, something that's bite-sized that you can just over time, little by little, continue leveling up the production of your show, keep you going, get you going, all of that stuff. And if you're like me, your podcast isn't the only thing that you do. So that's why I'm making it for you. It's not the only thing that you're doing. And sometimes you need something that will fill that gap as well. That's also part of why I'm making this video as a companion to that episode, because I wanted to make it more valuable for you. I wanted you to be able to see, if you're interested, behind the scenes into what goes into making a show like this, especially during a season when I'm making it on a daily basis. What about you, though? What problem does your podcast solve? I would love to hear from you, but first, before you let me know about that, I would encourage you to visit bigpodcast.com/subscribe to join me in this challenge, this 30-day solo host challenge, and then check out the episode about the problem that your podcast solves. Find the full instructions there for this particular part of the challenge. Then record and publish your answer and tag me on Twitter, Top Tier Audio on Twitter, and I'd love to see your answer. If you'd like to connect with me personally, subscribe to the show, contact me about perhaps editing your show or setting up a consultation, any of that stuff, you'll find at toptieraudio.com. That's also the place where you'll find the episode notes, all of that, toptieraudio.com. Thanks again. Now go out there and make a great podcast. So go ahead and stop that. And I finished the recording of that. There are a couple of places that I need to edit. But before I do that, I'm going to make a quick change. I'm going to save that. And then one of the things that I do with my show is I like to kind of separate out some of the audio repair portions of this. So I'm going to take the file that has my name on it, and I'm going to drop that in iZotope RX7. I dropped that in the wrong one. Try that one more time. This is really how the sausage is made. I do mess up from time to time. So I've got the file in iZotope RX7, and there are two things that are common to my voice that I'd like to fix before I do any editing. And I've got a module chain set up for myself right here. It's got my name on it. 2 pieces, mouth declick, because I'm feeling a little bit dehydrated right now. I'm going to leave that on. And then deplosive, because sometimes, even with the pop filter, I manage to pop that. I'm going to let this render. By the look of it, we're looking at maybe a minute to a minute and a half. So I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I'll come back when that's done, and we'll move on to the next part. All right, we're back, and the file is done processing. I have up on my screen what's happened here. I want to make a quick note. I did discover that I messed something up. I had somehow, in setting up the video and the recording, I recorded the wrong microphone, so I have undone that, and I've recorded again. I didn't want to belabor you with recording that twice, so I'm going to go ahead and delete the original, the one that I messed up, and I'm going to very quickly go through the editing process. This particular show is a very light edit, so I'm going to just very quickly, this is the end of the show. I'm going to clip the tail, and then I have a couple places where I messed up. I'm going to see if I can even hear this. Yeah, right there. Wait, did I mess up twice? Excuse me on that. There we go. There we go. Couldn't remember what I messed up. Okay, so we got that one. Got just a couple other edit points. I marked them with this noise. There we go. Quick edit there. And I think I've got one other. Had some problems with coughing while I was doing this. Right there. So like I said, very lightly edited. This should be the intro. Yep, there we go. And back to the beginning to make sure that I don't have anything I don't need at the beginning. See, very quick edits. All right, so that was the beginning. Now I have the file pretty much ready to go. You saw me do the iZotope RX. I already have a preset for my channel strip. So I've got some saturation. I have the gates turned off. I have some de-essing and EQ and a little bit of compression on there. And then I also use the vocal writer on that chain. I don't use any presets for Farrago. And then on the master channel, I have a few presets as well from iZotope's RX8. I'm going to go ahead and run all of those. Now, this is one of the cool things. I've got the edits done, and I'm getting ready to publish. With Hindenburg, I can go to Publish and then choose the destinations I want to publish to, which would be 1,000 podcasters. I actually have 2 of them set up if I can find them. One goes directly to Libsyn, and the other one goes to a Google Drive backup. Then I'm going to hit Edit, and I can go ahead and fill in the ID3 information or the file metadata with the title of the show or the title of the episode. So I've got a title, I've got a subtitle. I'm just going to copy all of that right in there. Episode number is 58. No keywords. A summary, I've already written that. Just drop that in and add the URL. The publishing date I'm going to leave empty. It's a clean show, so I'm good on that. When I hit publish, the Libsyn destination is going to upload as a draft, and the Google Drive is going to go right there. I'm going to hit publish. It'll take about 2 minutes or so to render this, and I'll pause the recording and come back when that part's done, and I'll take you through exactly what I do in WordPress and also in Libsyn. Hit publish, and I will be back shortly. Okay, so the file is done processing and it's been uploaded. I'm in the WordPress dashboard for toptieraudio.com, and I'm going to show you the exact process I use for publishing. So I'm going to go to the Libsyn Publisher Hub and Content. I've got this installed on the WordPress website. This interfaces between Libsyn and my particular show. I'm going to select the content. This is in draft right now on Libsyn, so it's not been published yet. And I'm going to hit Edit Episode at the bottom. Excuse me. This will bring up the WordPress editor. I am using Gutenberg as the editor. So I've got the Libsyn player and the classic editor right here. This is populated with the basic information that was provided for the description. And then down here I can create new stuff. I'm going to add a block, and I actually have a podcast episode block pre-made. I'm going to hit convert to regular blocks. And then this is where I'm going to fill out the show notes or the episode notes. I've got those pre-written as well in the document right here. It's actually pretty quick notes. I'm going to put in the title. Well, the title should be set. Yeah, that title is good. But I do want to update the URL to be that for simplicity. So I've updated the URL. Then I'm going to add the intro. This is going to go right before the player. I'm going to move the player down 1, 2. There we go. I don't need this. Oh, looks like I went 1 too far, didn't I? Move that down. I no longer need the classic editor, so I'll remove that. I don't have any additional intro stuff this time. And then resources I've got right here. Pop those in. These are the resources that I referenced. Looks like I've got a little bit too much right there just to clean up. And then one more right there. So bigpodcast.com/subscribe, one funnel away, Libsyn, 1,000 podcasters, subscribe, Twitter, and then the previous episode that I referenced. I have the excuse me, subscription information, a link to the 1,000 podcasters consultation. So all of that set up. I'm going to set the category. I don't have a featured image. The summary is going to be the excerpt. Pretty links, I want to set the pretty link to be 58 for this particular episode. I'll come back to this after I publish the video and put the video on this page as well, but for right now I don't have that. I have some stuff here for SEO, so I've got my slug. I'm going to pop in my summary and some images for social sharing. Excuse me. Apologies on the coughing. I'd clean it up if I had time, but I am under serious time crunch. I've got an email newsletter to do tonight and also another podcast to edit. So that's pretty much it. I'm going to save the draft and I want to preview it. Just make sure it looks good. For right now, because it's in draft mode, I won't be able to use the player, but I just want to make sure that everything looks right. So the player's there. I have the information, the links, all that looks good. 1,000 podcasters, so we're good there. I'm going to schedule this for publication in 10 minutes, so that would make it 9:30. I'll make it 9:30 even, and schedule that. And the reason I'm going to do that, I'll show you in just a second in Libsyn. So that's ready to go. I'm going to look at scheduled for release. And the reason I schedule it is because you'll notice that there are all these extra spaces in the description. For some reason, the interaction between the Publisher Hub and the Libsyn or the WordPress Gutenberg editor is a little bit challenged. And so if I look at the source code right here, you can see that there is all of this extra code that's related to these WordPress blocks. I'm going to delete that because every one of them has an additional class around it. This won't mess up the post in WordPress, but it will clean it up. And I'll show you how that is in just a second. You'll just watch me. It won't take long at all. Just pulling those out. Let's see. List. All of this code is just stuff that lets WordPress know how to display it in the editor. It's not actually relevant. And if it didn't have those paragraph marks around it, it wouldn't even matter. We wouldn't even have to clean it out. Hit OK. Looks generally OK. The other thing I'm going to do is when I go to social, I want to add the hashtag for National Podcast Post Month to both. And then because this is part of a challenger, I'm also going to tag David Hooper. And one other thing I forgot in the details, I forgot to change the category to Napa Podmo because it's specific to that. And then also you'll notice that the permalink right here is set to my particular show. A couple other things I forgot to do that I'll clean up right here. Sometimes I get ahead of myself when I'm working fast. And let's see, artwork is good. Social is good. Scheduling is set for roughly 10 minutes ago. Now I'm going to hit publish and this will be ready to go. So start to finish, it took about 30 minutes or so, a little bit longer than I would have liked. However, I did also make a video while I was doing this, and I did have to re-record the episode once. So overall, pretty good. If you have any questions or anything, I'd love to hear from you. Brian at toptieraudio.com, or you can just check out toptieraudio.com. If you'd like to hear how this episode sounded, toptieraudio.com/58. And if you'd like to set up a consultation or anything like that, toptieraudio.com, as well as, wow, a whole bunch of stuff today. I didn't realize there were this many calls to action. If you're a Hindenburg user and you are if you're a Hindenburg user and you'd like to connect with more Hindenburg users, you can visit us at hindyusers.com. That'll redirect you to Facebook. We have a group right there. Love to have you be part of that. Now, like I said in the show, go out there and make a great podcast.